Good morning. Um, Today used to be the feast of just St. Martha. Now it's the feast of St. Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. I think that's a Pope Francis creation. But classic Martha, right? Sorry, Martha, you don't get your own feast day anymore. You have to share it with your brother and sister. So, quit complaining. But indeed, here's Jesus visiting his friend's house, right? He's here with Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, and Martha wants to make sure that everything is just right and that she's taking good care of her guest and her friend, and she's making sure that all the needs are met, and she's serving, and she's anxious, and she's bitter, and she's angry that her sister is not helping her, that her sister is just sitting there listening to Jesus. And so when she complains to Jesus, tell her to come help me. Jesus says, yeah, well, she's chosen the better part and it can't be taken away from her. Yes, it's necessary that we eat. Yes, it's necessary that somebody take care of us. But what's more necessary is that we hear the word of God and that we do his will. That we first recognize who Jesus Christ is. There's this kind of false dichotomy in the church that, says, we should, forget all the teachings of Jesus, and we should forget all the the things that the church says that we ought to do, and we ought to focus entirely on serving the poor. In fact, in the gospel passage where Martha's sister Mary anoints Jesus' feet with the costly oil, it's Judas who says, oh gosh, that oil could have been sold for 300 days' wages, and we could have given that money to the poor. And Jesus says, the poor you'll always have with you, but I'll only be with you for a short time. And so we kind of look at this idea of, well, do we do the will of God on earth here? Do we follow his commands? Or do we go out and do we serve the poor? Well, it's a both and, right? To really, truly follow the will of God means to serve the poor, not for the sake of serving the poor to lift them out of poverty or to make them not poor, but rather to encounter Christ. In serving the poor, we serve Christ. And in others, seeing us serving the poor, serving the suffering, serving the needy, serving the poor of spirit, as we serve them, people see the will of God being done. And so our service to the poor isn't just to make us feel good or to fix problems, but rather it's to be Christ and to recognize Christ. So Martha is caught up in this need to serve, and this need to worry about things, and this need to do things. I know people like that they focus just on what's got to be done. What's the bigger picture? No, don't worry about the bigger picture. What's right in front of us? What's got to be done? What's got to be done is the will of God. And yes, in order to do the will of God, you need the Marthas that are there and that are kind of helping and that are doing and that are organizing and that are serving. But we can't get caught up in the whole false dichotomy. We can't get caught up in either only serving or only listening to the will of God. Only honoring God, only serving the poor. It's interesting because a lot of times critics of the church, sometimes even within the church, they'll say, gosh, all this money that's spent on, decorations and beautiful things and, gold and silver and all that, right? Wouldn't it be better if we gave that to the poor? Well, first we give our very best to God. We give the very best that we can to God. And the poor are welcome to come into the church and to see the beauty, right? Think of the medieval cathedrals, beautiful stained glass that told stories to those who couldn't read, helping others to experience the beauty of God, the transcendence of God. People say, well, but the church should just sell all that stuff and give that money to the poor. Okay, well then who's got that money to buy it, first of all, and why don't they give their money to the poor? And what are they going to do with it when they buy it? Are they going to put it in a museum and charge fees to come in and see it? Take it away from the poor. And so in our own lives, we strive to be Martha and Mary, but more so Mary, to listen to the will of God, to listen in my life. God, what is it that you are asking of me? The first thing he's asking of us is that we just simply listen. We listen to his voice. And so on this feast day, let us ask the intercession of Saints Martha, Mary, and Lazarus that we may always be able to hear the will of God and do it.